Today we're going to practice algebra when we have some math stories. So let's look at this problem. Find the height of a rectangle if you know that this rectangle has a perimeter of 40 centimeter and its height is 1 less than half the base. So first, when we look at a problem like this, we need to identify our variables. So what are the things that are unknown in this problem? So the things that we don't know the height of a rectangle and the base of a rectangle. So these we can call them the unknown, right? These two. So let's define them more precisely. So we have the base and the height. And we know that the height is 1 less than half the base. So we're going to call the base x because we know the height is 1 less. So 1 less than half the base. Half the base, we're going to write it like this. Or you can also write it like this. 1/2 of the base, but 1 less. That means the same thing. All right, so let's draw our rectangle here just to give us an idea of what we have. We have a rectangle here with a base here that is x and our height here that is x over 2 minus 1. And you know that the perimeter is 40 centimeter. So if you remember the perimeter, we know that is 40. How do we calculate the perimeter when we know the base and the height? The base, sometimes we call it b, and the height, we call it h. So if we do b plus h plus b plus h, we realize that we have 2 times the base plus the height, and that has to be equal to 40 centimeters. And now we're going to change the b and the h with the variables that we identified here at the beginning. So that means we're going to write 2, and then our base is our x, and our h is x over 2 minus 1. This is the equation that we need to solve to find our answer. So that's an equation because there is an equal sign. And we need to find when this is equal to 40. So let's go on the next page and write down our equation. We're going to have just more room. Like, I guess on your paper, you guys should be okay. So this is what we have. Minus 1 is equal to 40. So you see here at the front, you have 2 times the bracket. So 2 times the bracket, if we want to simplify that, we're going to divide by 2 on each side. So 2 divided by 2 will cancel out, and on our right side, 40 divided by 2 will be equal to 20. So this is where we are now. So we have x plus x over 2 minus 1. So we could get rid of the minus 1 here. So to get rid of minus 1, let's do the opposite. So let's do plus 1. If I do plus 1 on the left, I have to do it on the right as well. If you do something on the left, remember, you have to do the same thing so it stays balanced. So now I am at this point where I have x plus x over 2 equals 21, because this here cancels out, right? Minus 1 plus 1 is gone. Now, do you remember how to add fractions? This x is over 1, and I have something over 2. So I need to put them on the common denominator. My common denominator here is 2. How do I go from 1 to 2? I need to times by 2. If I times by 2, I'm going to do x times 2, and that gives me 2x. This here is already over 2, so I just have to leave it like that. And that is equal to 21. I have 2x plus x. Here, this is 1x. So 2x plus 1x, I have 3x over 2 is equal to 21. Now I need to get rid of the 3 and the 2 next to my x. I'm just going to take a new page so I have more room to show you. So I am at this point. 3x over 2 is equal to 21. How do you get rid of divided by 2? What's the opposite of dividing by 2? It would be to do times 2. If I do times 2 on the left, I have to do the same thing on the right. So 2 here times 2 divided by 2, these two will cancel out. So I'm left with my 3x is equal to 21 times 2, that's 42. And here 3x means 3 times x. So to get rid of 3 times x, I need to divide by 3. If I do it on the left side, I have to do it on the right side. So 3 divided by 3 will cancel out. So now I have x is equal to 42 divided by 3 is 40. Now, if you remember from the page, I guess on your paper, you should still have what we wrote before. We said that the base was x, right? Remember from page 1. And the height was x over 2 minus 1, right? So if we found x is equal to 14, that means the base is equal to 14 centimeters. But the question was, find the height. So if I want to find the height here, I need to use the formula for the height, right? So I'm going to write, instead of x over 2, I know the value of my x is 14. So 14 over 2 minus 1. 14 over 2, that equals 7, minus 1, that equals 6. So remember, if they ask you, the question is, what's the height? Your answer should be the height is 6 centimeters. All right. Now let's look at another problem, but this time using money. So I'm going to give you a second to look at that. Sophie is cleaning and she found coins. She found dimes and nickels. This treasure is worth $3. She also noticed that there are 5 more nickels than 3 times the number of dimes. So what I did here on the side is I put a little chart just to remind you that nickels are worth 5 cents. Now 5 cents, we write it like this usually, 0.05. So we're going to be using this one. And the dime is worth 10 cents. But we're going to be using this notation as decimal because it's easier to work with decimal numbers when we get to dollars. Now when you look at this problem, the question is, how many nickels did she find? So what are the unknowns in this problem? So I'm going to give you a second to think about it. What are the things that we don't know in this problem? So for sure, we don't know the number of dimes. And the question is, how many nickels? So we don't know the number of nickels either. So let's write it like this. And that's important that you write number of nickels, because that's going to help you at the end when you figure out your answer. And number of dimes. Now they're telling you that the number of nickels is, there's 5 more nickels than 3 times the number of dimes. So you know how to write that? 3 times the number of dimes. That's 3 times the number of dimes. Let's call the number of dimes x. So that would give us 3x, 3 times the number of dimes. But there's 5 more. So we need to do here plus 5. So 3 times the number of dimes, but 5 more. So plus 5. Now, how do we use the $3? So that's the tricky part, is that you know a nickel is worth 5 cents and a dime is worth 10 cents. So if you want to put the number of dimes with the money, how would you do that? Well, imagine if you have 10 nickels, you would do 10 times 5 cents, right? But we don't have 10 nickels. We have 3x plus 5. So 3x plus 5, that's the number of nickels. And that is worth 5 cents. So let's multiply that by 5 cents. Plus, how many dimes do we have? We have x dimes, and that's worth 0.10. And if we put all of this together, it's going to give us $3. So what do we do when we have a bracket here with a number here next to it? It's multiply. So we need to multiply it with everything inside. So let's look at the first one. 3x times 0.05. So that's 0.05 times 3. So imagine 5 cents times 3, that's 15 cents. So 0.15x plus 5 times 5 cents. So that's 25 cents, 0.25. Plus x times 10, I'm going to write it like this. And that is equal to $3. Now you see that we have here some x and here some x. So let's put our x together. So 0.15 plus 0.10, if we add the decimals, we get 0.25x plus our 0.25 still stays there. So what do we have to do here? We have to get rid of our 0. Plus 0.25. So let's minus that. Minus 0.25 on the left, minus 0.25 on the right. So that means that this here will cancel out. There's no more on this side. So we have 0.25x is equal to $3 minus 0.25. So that's $2.75. And here 0.25x means times x. So the opposite of times is divide. So we're going to divide by 0.25 on both sides. So we are left with the value of our x. So you're left with x is equal to 2.75 divided by 25 is 11. So what we found is x. So x, if you look at your definition here, I'm just going to take a new page so we can see better. So we were left with our x is equal to 11. That means that this is the number of dimes, so that I have 11 dimes, right? But the question is how many nickels? So the number of nickels, you just have to take your definition or your description after 3 times x, which is 11, plus 5. I could write equal there. So 3 times 11 is 33 plus 5, and that's 38. So the question here was how many nickels did she find? So she found 33 nickels. Have fun practicing algebra and math stories.